Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Ōkami walkthrough. We're here at Catcall Tower, and it's time to climb it. Obviously that will have to be as soon as I've stopped just having a little sit down, because we had a pretty damn long video the last part and just needed a little bit of chilling to do. So yep, we have to climb that entire tower. So this is going to be fun. What's quite interesting is that, so there are these symbols for catwalk, which go all the way up the tower, and we are going to have to follow that all the way up. But first, we are introduced to the Poltergeist, which is kind of a new enemy in the Wheel family. So their description is, this demon is really a group of 3 sickle-wielding weasels that attack in a circle. They roll around at such great speeds that mortals cannot see them. Wherever you see a tornado, blizzard or funnel of fire, chances are you are seeing a poltergeist in action. And that thing went down so much quicker than I was expecting. I must have just gotten quite badass at beating this type of thing, you know? Now, after having a little look further in the art book, we have the kind of art stuff for the poltergeists. So this is the design that had me apologise to our 3D modeller, Hattori. In the past, strong winds that could cut flesh were rumoured to actually be a demon, more specifically the sickle weasels. A team of 3 weasels working as one. One legend says that the first weasel stirs up a brisk wind to make the victim stumble, the second weasel cuts into the victim with its sickle, and the third weasel immediately applies medicine to the wound to keep it from becoming fatal. When I think about the fact that my grandmother could have imagined them just like this, it warms my heart. I gave them a distinctly ninja-like flavour for Ōkami. And seeing as we are going to be spending a reasonable amount of time going up this tower and feeding cats, it's probably worth me looking into the whole thing of the sickle weasel. And this is the Japanese name for the sickle weasel is, I believe, the Kamaitachi. So it's a Japanese yokai often told about in the Koshinetsu region of Japan. Or it can also refer to strange events that the creature causes. Obviously, in Western culture, a poltergeist is more seen as a ghost, or a dangerous presence that kind of moves things and throws chairs at people and so on and so forth. They are seen to be the same as the Kyuki of China, but basically they appear riding on dust devils and they cut people using the nails on both their hands that are like sickles, and you receive a sharp wound from it. Apparently, it was originally thought the word Kamaitachi was originally thought to be a corruption of the word Kamaitachi, which is stance sword, but like the Kyuki in the yin part of something or other, they were reused and depicted as weasel yokai and became what they are now. Now there are various kind of legends that change depending on the area. So, for instance, in the Tohoku region of Japan, when one receives an injury from a Kamaitachi, it is said that by burning an old calendar black and putting it upon the wound opening, it would heal. You also have, in the mountainous regions of Kochi Prefecture and Tokushima Prefecture, among other areas of West Japan, encountering such a strange event is called being cut by a nogama, which is wild sickle, and they are said to be the deeds of grass-cutting sickles that have been left and forgotten on fields and have ended up turning into yokai. And they are also said to be a sickle's vengeful spirit, an onryo, that is turned into a sukumogami, a receptacle that is turned into yokai. In the Aya region in Tokushima Prefecture, it said that sickles and hoes used for digging the hole of a funeral, if left for 7 days without taking it back, would turn into a nogama. And when one encounters a nogama, it said that one should chant, beneath the feet on the bottom left of Buddha, is the stump of a kurotake, which is a species of bamboo, and quickly became clean, but let it grow back. So yes, and that in Japanese is Hotoke no hidari no shita no omiyashi no shita kurotake no kirikabu nari itau wa nakare hayaku ruta ga haekisaru. I hope I'm pronouncing this somewhat correctly. I don't speak Japanese in the slightest. So most of this is me just attempting pronunciations at things based on the fact that I know that pretty much when the romanizations of Japanese words, you kind of almost pronounce every single syllable as it's written. Most of the time it changes depending on the word sometimes, but I'm doing me best. Now, as you can see, there are a huge amount of stray cats up here, and basically, you're going to want to stop off at every single level of Catcall Tower to feed these cats, because if you want that praise, I mean, it's here for the taking. It's free. I mean, it's not quite free because obviously you have to pay for the feed bags, but it's really easy praise to get, and also it will ultimately fill your bestiary. So why the hell would you not do it? And also, every now and again, there are chests on each of the levels which contain items for you, so why the hell wouldn't you go for it? Rather irritatingly, though, there is one major issue that I think a lot of people have with Catcall Tower, and that is the fact that if you want a stray bead, you've got to climb up this thing twice. Yes, you heard me right. Twice. And this is a good kind of 9-10 minute climb which you have to repeat, and that time it's not even, oh, this is a new thing to explore, this is just going up the same tower. That, and I have absolutely no idea how you're meant to be able to tell that this is, well, that is how you get that stray bead. Because, I mean, once you've been to an area, why would you think to go all the way back up to the top? It just doesn't make sense, which is weird. Also, be careful at this point, because there is no cloud, so if you fell off there, you would be going back down to the level below. Now, there's a stray bead here. This is not the stray bead I'm talking about. There is another one here. So you have got to be careful at that particular point, because there's no safety net to catch you should you fall, for quite other than the one that was quite far below you. And this is just a case of just pressing A constantly as you jump up, which can be slightly tedious. I mean, not slightly, very tedious. I like the premise of Catcall Tower, and I like the design and all of that. I think just gameplay-wise, it's not particularly interesting. 'Cause, I mean, also, there's the fact that there is no music. You're just listening to a cat going, ooh, ooh, ooh. And still, what's quite nice is that there is a mermaid spring up here, so if you want quick and easy access to the top of Catcall Tower, then you can use that. But you may think that that would be a way of cheating the game out of its stray bead. No, you've got to do the entire climb, otherwise it won't register. You can't just cheese your way by going to the mermaid spring. Still, we're in the upper bits of the tower now. We are very nearly done with this moment. And if we just head over this path, there is a very specific cat, and you need to feed this cat to get anywhere. So if you didn't bring any feed bags with you, you are an idiot, and you are not going to be able to get the next brush technique. and you'll have also missed out on a load of praise. So really do make sure you stock up on those fish feed bags before you set off for Catcall Tower, because otherwise you're going to screw yourself over monumentally. But here we go, it is time for another brush guard. You may not be able to tell exactly what this is just yet, because I mean the shape doesn't exactly indicate the animal. But then you should have really realised that it was going to be a cat, considering all the cats and the fact this is Catcall Tower. Duh. And oh, I really do dislike the fact that there is, like, just audio issues in these scenes, because they are so good, and yet the Wii version just butchers it. Anyway, this is Kabigami. Now, you may think that, oh, maybe it should be, well, not quite thinking, like, you might be thinking that it should be like Nekogami or something like God of Cats, but no, it's Kabigami because Kabe means wall, so Kabigami is the wall god, which is quite fitting considering she gives you the ability to use Catwalk, which allows you to traverse walls of your own accord, which is a very useful skill, and we will be making use of it throughout the rest of the game. Now, alongside Moegami, who's the rooster god, Kabigami is the only celestial brush god to have one or more statues around Nippon. And it's largely because you need to be able to do these sort of things. Now, what I just made use of there is the moving the Wiimote forward to have a thicker brush stroke. Basically, it's a bit odd with Catwalk, because the game wants you to do slightly thicker lines to be able to kind of neatly drag you up to the top of things, but it doesn't always quite work out like that. So, I mean, if you try and draw a thicker line, you should be okay, but you've got to make sure that you have a full line, otherwise it's not quite going to work. Now, what's really cool is that it is possible to leap from the top of Catcall Tower all the way to the bottom, and you won't suffer from fall damage, which is great. Annoyingly, it's kind of trying to find the spot where you can make that leap. And don't worry, I will find it when we are going to leap off from the top of Catcall Tower. It's just that it won't quite just let me do it yet. I think I've got to go down a floor or so. Because why should I be allowed to have any fun and jump from the very top of the tower, eh? So the last bit of information I have about Kabigami is that the object on which Kabigami is clutching onto is a byobu, which is a type of Japanese folding screen. This one in particular is just a panel rather than a literal folding screen, but the typical byobu, which it means wind wall, are kind of fully folding screens, and they're generally kind of filled with wonderfully decorative paintings and calligraphy, and they separate interiors and enclose private spaces and all of that. And what's quite important to point out is that they were a very popular thing of Japanism in import, as being import items to Europe and America starting in the late 19th century. Because there was a relatively long period of Orientalism and fascination with the Orient, which is not exactly a politically correct thing to say, but that is how they dubbed it at the time. Nowadays it's just like, just leave that in the past. But yes, the Byobus are generally absolutely gorgeous. Now apparently, well, they've grown in terms of their form. It happens, that's how most things change. So they began in the Nara period. The original form was a single standing legged panel, and then in the 8th century, multi-panelled Byobus made their appearance, and then kind of they progressed from there. And now, seeing as we are making our return journey up Catcall Tower, I am going to refer to something in the art book which I haven't quite dealt with yet, and which is probably going to be nice now because it fills this time up quite nicely. So there's some information here kind of in the stuff to do with army that we haven't looked at. So in terms of the reflectors, Heaven's Light, which is I think meant to be the name of the first reflector, tends to make one think of the 3 mirrors, the divine devices. So the idea to go with a mirror motif was decided early on. The art done in black brushed ink led us to the final direction of Ōkami's art style. Now that's something that I will mostly refer to in one of the extras parts, because originally Ōkami was going to be realistic graphics. So, kind of much softer lines and much more realistic fur, but it wasn't technically feasible. And so once they had this kind of brushstroke design, that's what they went with. In the earlier designs for Army, they incorporated a lot of traditional Japanese items, but they were trying really hard to avoid making it look like making your pet wear clothing look, which is the true challenge of designing a 4-legged character that equips items. The favourite of whoever wrote the thing in the art book was the bronze bell boosters, which are actually quite glorious. And there is our treasure chest, which houses our wonderful stray bead that we had to do all that work for. Now, when it comes to the weapons, they did their best to design them in such a way that equipping them would greatly alter Amaterasu's appearance, thus hopefully making the player more excited as they acquired new weapons. The movement of the equipped weapons is the work of Yamaguchi from the motion department, and they thought it really added another layer of uniqueness to each weapon. Personally, their favourite was the mysterious air of the Infinity Judge. Then, when it comes to the glaives, the names were derived from alternate names for the 3 divine vessels and the 10 divine treasures. Incidentally, here, Sumagari, the blade of Kusanagi, and one weapon that we do not have yet are all the same sort, so their basic designs are the same. And also what's really quite cool and somewhat odd is that early in the concept stage for Ōkami, Army was going to be able to turn into a dolphin upon entering water and a falcon when she launched herself off a cliff. However, I think they realised that that was maybe a little bit too much work, and so they just let it lie. But now that we have the power of Kabigami, and we've done all that work in Catcall Tower, we never have to go back again. We've got all of the cats there, so we're all good. We can actually make use of catwalk around the world. And so we are going to go and get a bunch of goodies. And there are some really good treasures that you can get out of the catwalk stuff. So certainly do look around for those cat statues, because this is the power that we have been waiting for ever since the beginning of the game, because obviously there was a Kabigami statue in Shinshu Fields. So they wanted you to definitely go back across the entire world with this power and make use of it. I mean, it's probably a good thing because elsewhere the game doesn't really like you making use of catwalk. Like, it's used within some puzzles, but it's probably one of the least useful brush techniques. Partly because obviously it can't be used in combat. So, whereas pretty much all of the others are combat ready. So Catwalk is quite the oddity, if you think about it. Also, I actually pulled off Cherry Bombing Floral Finisher. Thankfully I don't really have to do that often from this point on, so... Whew. But yes, the plan for just the rest of this is just finishing off getting the stuff to do with Kawigami. And also partially unlocking the next area, because I think I remember saying that Catcall Tower is sort of optional. It's not really. You definitely need to go to Catcall Tower, and you definitely need Catwalk. And the reason for that is that Catwalk is the only way to get to the top of this particular platform. It's not quite how I want to describe it, but we need to get up to this little plateau at the top here. Because that is going to allow us to complete the trial that Orca said we needed to pass. And also, I believe we're going to come into a new enemy somewhere around here. First I want to feed these tigers, because why the hell not? But I think, yeah, we're about to come across an enemy that I am really not hugely fond of when it comes to fighting. And it's largely because it's a bit of a dodgy fight, really. And here we go. We're facing off against the Blue Cyclops. So the thing with the Blue Cyclops is that it can change its form in battle. Basically, as soon as its fire in its pipe goes out, it will transform into what is more think of as a Cyclops, in that it's sort of humanoid features and so on and so forth. And what the artist in the art book says is, he has an awesomely scary face, but I would never want a face like that. And yeah, I'm really not a fan of these guys, because basically once they go into the transformed mode, you can't hurt them. So you've got to wait until they go back into standard Cyclops mode. And just... not a fan. Not a fan in the slightest. Now, its Japanese name is Ao Nudo, which is literally Blue Buddhist Priest. Its Floral Finisher is a move that we do not have yet, and won't actually be getting for a little while. Actually no, its Floral Finisher is Water Spout, but since in most battles you won't actually be able to have a source of water, you can't do that. That said, eventually we'll get a move that allows us to do stuff with it. Now, basically using rosaries as main and sub-weapons is often the safest option for dealing with these guys, so attacking from a distance. But, yeah, you've just got to do your best, really. And whilst we open up where we need to go, apparently the Blue Cyclops is based on a folk yokai named Hitotsu me Nudo, which makes sense of its Japanese name. And actually, in terms of design, it's very similar. Basically, it's a monk that only has one eye, essentially. And now that we have found this, it's a wonderful swirling whirlpool galaxy. This is what we needed. Now, for a whirlpool, it's not whirling very much, is it? So I think we're going to need to do something about that. Although that said, technically this shouldn't work because, you know, wind doesn't affect the galaxies, but I'll let this slide because it is quite a cool moment. So we've just got to keep whirling this thing around and it's going to be wonderful. And so the Whirlpool Galaxy opens up an actual whirlpool, which is going to be our entrance to the Dragon Palace. And basically, we're getting very, very close to the end of the second third of Ōkami. Like, we have one mini dungeon and an actual dungeon to go, and then the second third is done. Like, look how fast we're going through this game. I mean, it may seem a little bit slower, because, I mean, I know we're at part 40, and there's still another third of the game to go. But it's still just like, at times this game doesn't feel like it's kind of taking any time at all. It's really odd. I don't quite know how to explain it. It's just like, it can drag, don't get me wrong, and when I first played the game it did feel like it was dragging a little bit. But, like, when you're just having fun, it's just like, oh, this is just wonderful, I don't care. I'm just going to keep playing. Also, sod off Water Dragon, you'll get your chance. We want to head to the Dragon Palace! And I'm sure we're going to have an absolutely wonderful time.